let me welcome you to our monthly conversation series for November, which is on quality assessments for educational excellence. I'm going to spend just a minute introducing our moderator for the panel, and then I will turn it over to him. Dr. Cliff Janey is a member of the Albert Shanker Institute board. We're very proud of his participation, and he brings to this panel a lifetime of experience in education, including having been a district superintendent in Newark, Washington, D.C., and I believe there's even a third place that I'm forgetting. Rochester, okay, which is probably the one where you were able to accomplish the most.
No accident.
So Cliff has graciously agreed to moderate today's panel, and so I will now turn it over to him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Leo. I want to take a pause and just give my full acknowledgement and support for this series of conversations about very important issues central to the education of all of our children throughout the country. And before I introduce our esteemed panel, I want to say that this particular subject affects every part of our working life in terms of being educators, regardless of where we may be doing that kind of work. And I, for one, come to the moderating role with not just a body of experiences, but with a point of view about where we are at this stage of reform. I've wondered whether we're going to create an opportunity to step back and look and reflect upon the body of work that's been done so far in the area of assessment. You know, mend it, don't break it, I think has been captured here this morning and this afternoon. So I am going to introduce each of the panel members, knowing full well that they have lived through 3 presidents, each of whom, with the exception of our most recent president, observed changes in ESOL, big changes, particularly with President Bush coming into office. And mindful of those changes, I'm going to pose a question to them after the introductions that will set the stage for their reflections on where we are in the assessment movement, and spend about 15 minutes per panelist. So I will begin first, but somewhat last, by making reference to Ann Cook as a parent who raised 3 children in New York City, all of whom went to the public schools in New York City. It's rare that you have someone who's done that and also found time to pursue a professional career. She's the executive director of the New York Performance Standards Consortium, a coalition of 28 New York State public high schools that has developed and implemented a performance-based system of assessment in lieu of high-stakes testing. Ann co-founded the Urban Academy Laboratory High School, the award-winning anchor school located in the Julia Richmond Education Complex in New York City. She has taught students K-12, as well as at the Sarah Lawrence College and at City University of New York. She writes and speaks, and I dare say would be listening as well, on matters related to educational reform, and is the author of 3 series of children's books, and served as the editor of Teacher to Teacher publications distributed by Teachers College Press. And of course, once again, she's the parent of 3 children who have graduated from the New York City public schools. Thanks for being here, Ann. All right. Stephen Glassman is a senior fellow at Mathematica Policy Research with expertise in methods for evaluating the impact of social programs and teacher labor markets, including issues of teacher recruitment, professional development, alternative certification, performance measurement, and compensation. Is there anything else that you have not addressed, Stephen? That's a pretty high-powered kind of listing of issues that affect teaching and learning. Steve's early research has included large-scale national impact evaluations of high-profile programs such as Teach for America and Job Corps. More recently, he was the principal investigator for federally funded national studies of preschool curriculum, teacher induction, and teacher pay. He currently leads the impact evaluation of Talent Transfer Initiative, an effort to identify high value-added teachers and attract them with monetary incentives to low-performing schools. He also led a 5-year randomized study of the impacts of teacher advancement program in the Chicago Public Schools and is a principal investigator for a national evaluation of the Teacher Incentive Fund. Steve served on the Brookings Institute's task force on teacher quality. He's an adjunct professor of economics at Georgetown University. His work has been published in books and journals, including the Journal of Policy, Analysis, and Management of Education, Finance, and Policy. He's been quoted in Ed Week, the Washington Post, the Houston Chronicle, the Arizona Daily Star. He holds a PhD in public policy from the University of Chicago's Harris School of Public Policy. Did they quote you right in the Washington Post, by the way? Accurate. Different from right. Stewart, to my immediate left, co-founded Measured Progress in 1983, served as vice president during the company's first 14 years, and has been the president and CEO since '97. A former elementary and secondary teacher. What grade levels?
5th, 6th, 10th, and 12th. Yep. And college level, too.
Okay, I'm sure I'm going to get there. Stewart earned degrees from Johns Hopkins University and the University of Colorado. He has worked for the Education Commission of the States, the University of Colorado, and the RMC Research Corporation, where he helped generate statewide assessments, business and directed several state contracts. A frequent speaker at industry conferences, Stewart has served as a technical consultant to various education agencies. In recent years, he's been recognized for his work in the area of standard setting for non-multiple choice instruments and the alignment of curriculum and assessment. Steve regularly publishes research papers and commentaries introducing and analyzing current issues and trends in education. So here's my lead question for each of you to comment, and then you can expound upon your work and what you've prepared for this afternoon. The question is, and tell me if you need me to repeat it. I'll be with you. Given that readiness assessments were originally used to inform instruction and adapt curriculum that developed many domains of learning, and now through the accountability movement, testing has become seemingly an unstoppable growth industry. How do we create change in the policy and the political environments to bring back some sensibility to the work of school, classroom, and community leaders? Shall I repeat?
Nope, that's good.
We don't have to go in order. You just
Okay, well, are you looking at we had like 15-minute presentations? Is that
Oh, I'd like you to respond to that question, then you can go into your 15-minute presentation.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You want to move your...
Well, actually, most of my remarks would try to answer that question, so I'm going to hold off and say,
Okay,
you know,
well-
I think you've posed the question. I'd like to spend a little time unpacking what your sort of the way you have framed it, and then offer at least one example of what we might do to think about it in a different way.
That works. Stuart?
It's interesting. I think our presentations are probably going to deal with what we think should be. As to the transition to that, that's a challenge. You know, that's trying to control what goes on in this city, and I'm not sure how you do that. But the point is, I think we know a lot. We know a lot about different kinds of assessment. We know a lot about teaching and learning, and implementing what we know is always a challenge. I look at that in terms of educational research, or for many, many, many decades, you know, tell us what are more effective ways to do things, and yet somehow it doesn't get translated as well as it should be at all levels. And then when you're talking about the policy level, that's where we're really concerned here, and that's a big challenge. And I don't know. To me, there's a need. I think you're absolutely right in characterizing things as they are now. They've gone way too far. And so how do you change that? It's got to come from, I just assume it's got to be the voters and the general public and the experts and the special interest groups and so on. And how they exert that pressure and how successful they are, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that is a hard question. It's an abstract question. I think I'm going to probably take the same approach of seeing if I can, talk through some of what I was preparing for this about ways that we can improve standardized testing, and see if that generates any insights that will help us answer that question, and then maybe we can come back to it afterwards. But it's a good way to frame it, and like most hard questions, they're probably best answered by breaking them down into smaller parts, and seeing what we can tackle.
All right.